He's a little bit country. He's a little bit rock and roll. He's a little bit polka, death metal, abstract jazz, and German industrial techno. He's Scott Leffler. He's not allowed near the stereo at parties.
That is so true. Hey, hi, how's it going? I'm Scott Leffler. I am your host for this new show. Well, reboot of a show, if you want, called Here's the Thing. We're going to do this every Tuesday on All Western New York Radio, and then we're going to podcast it thereafter. Each show is going to have a couple of interviews. We're going to talk some sports. We're going to talk some entertainment, talk a little bit of news, and a little bit of my banter about God knows what. Tonight we've got three guests for you. Chris Robbins, the Niagara County legislator from Niagara Falls, is going to talk about the Amazon project in the town of Niagara and some concerns that he has about it. My buddy Drew McGrath is going to join us on sports, and he's going to do that every week, or at least almost every week. And today we're going to talk about, probably a lot about football, to be completely honest with you. Now, in future weeks, Drew and I might talk about not sports. Drew is one of my best friends, and we do have a tendency to just kind of ramble. But today I'm going to try and keep us on topics. We're going to talk about sports, just so you get to know who Drew is, what he thinks, what he knows. And then we're going to close out the show with Zach Ward of the Zach Ward and the $1 Million Question. He's going to join us by phone. We're going to talk a little bit about what he's got going on. I know one of the really cool things that he has going on is that this summer he is playing the Live at Larkin series. And so we're early May 6th, and a lot of these schedules are coming out now, and I'm really excited about some of the things that are going on or will be going on in Buffalo this summer. One of the best things, in my opinion, about living in Western New York is all of the different concert series. We've just got concerts all over the place. And, of course, there's free series, and a lot of the older free series you now have to pay to go to, but there's still nominal fees. You get to see some great bands. So Zach Ward is one of the many bands that will be playing live at Larkin this year, and he will join us later in the show. Also, in today's show, we've got 4 different tracks. We've got a track by First Ward, which is Zach Ward's old band. We got a track by a band called Flows Like Niagara, and it is a very old track, one of my favorites, to be honest with you, that's going to be playing on the radio station. And we've got a track by a band that's going to be joining us in just a few weeks. And then we've got another track, hopefully, if things work out the way they're supposed to, we will close the show with another track by Zach Ward with his new band, Zach Ward and the $1 Million Question. But let me start by telling you a little bit about me. So, my name's Scott. I'm a Libra. I am engaged to be married in just under 3 weeks. I have been with my fiancée for a little over 4 years now, but we have known each other since high school. We had like a flirtationship in high school. And then we dated very briefly about 8 years ago, and then she went her way and I went my way, and we found each other again. So that's, I think, a good thing. But that's a little bit about my personal life. As far as who I am, so I'm a registered libertarian, believe it or not. But between the Democrat and the Republican Party, I tend to adhere more to Democratic ideologies, largely because I like to consider myself to be a compassionate person. And I don't know what the hell's going on in the Republican Party these days. I am a never-Trumper, an anti-Trumper, a Trump is the worster, and a lot of that will come out throughout the course of not just today's show, but, in the weeks and months ahead. And I spent a lot of time being frustrated about the current state of affairs in the United States. The things that people have decided is okay or normal, and it's just a complete abomination of what I grew up thinking it was to be not just an American, but a human being. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about, whatever else is going on in the news. I've got little bits that I do. I don't know if bits is the right word. There are repeating thoughts that will come into the show. Not today, but at some point in the future, you may hear a thing, and then you'll hear it again later. It's a radio show. It's a podcast, if you will. But we're doing it live on All Western New York Radio. Now, I am the founder and owner of All Western New York Radio. Started All Western New York Radio 19 years ago with a couple of friends. And, as soon as I started it, of course, the friends were like, yeah, this sounds like work, and they left. So I ran All Western New York Radio for a few years. And then I actually handed All Western New York Radio over to a friend of mine, Corey Hagstrom. You might know him as Noah Goki. And he ran things for a while because my life got to be a little bit of chaos. And then his life got a little complicated, and I took All Western New York Radio back in 2016. At that time, I also added All Western New York News. We also have All Western New York Events. We have All Western New York Deals. Basically, if you type in All WNY and then another word, you're probably going to come up to the All Western New York website. All Western New York Sports, for example, will get you the All Western New York News website with the tag of sports. So if you're looking for a sports story, just type in All Western New York, allwnysports.com. But All Western New York Radio is really where it all began. And it started because I am actually, so I'm doing this as a talk show host, if you will, and people are like, oh, anybody can have a radio show. And it's true. Like, anybody can do a radio show if they want to. But I am classically trained, if you will. So I have a journalism degree from National University, graduated in 1996, went on to do newspaper journalism for a while, worked for the Union Sun and Journal, the Niagara Gazette, the Tonawanda News, et cetera, yakety schmackety. Ended up as a talk show host at WLVL Radio in Lockport and WECK Radio in Cheektowaga. So that started in 2002, and I did a daily talk show for 7 years. And then I went back into print media, went back to work for the Union Sun and Journal, then started an online publication, then basically revived All Western New York with All Western New York News, and now professionally I do commercial narration for a living. So I narrate radio and TV commercials, the occasional audiobook, phone systems, and lots and lots and lots of YouTube videos. So that's me professionally, if you will. Okay, so we got the introduction out of the way, and now that we've done that, let's get on with the bit. So I said earlier I am a never Trumper, and that's going to come up a lot. A lot of the show's topics, at least the first part of the show, which is just going to be me and my thoughts, is going to be Trump and stupid things that Trump says and does. And there will be no shortage of stupid things that Trump says and does for the remainder of his term, because it's not like the guy's getting any smarter. He just says and does one stupid thing after another. And I've got several today that I want to talk about. But I want to open with Alcatraz. Now, you may have seen this yesterday on social media or, maybe on the news. President Donald Trump said that he wants to reopen Alcatraz and house prisoners there. And he was asked about it at a press conference why he wants to do it, and this is what he said.
I guess I was supposed to be a movie maker. We started with the movie making, and we'll end. I mean, it represents something very strong, very powerful in terms of law and order. Our country needs law and order. Alcatraz is, I would say, the ultimate, right? Alcatraz, Sing Sing and Alcatraz, the movies. But it's right now a museum, believe it or not. A lot of people go there. It housed the most violent criminals in the world, and nobody ever escaped. One person almost got there, but they, as you know the story, they found his clothing rather badly ripped up, and it was a lot of shark bites, a lot of problems. Nobody's ever escaped from Alcatraz, and just represented something strong having to do with law and order. We need law and order in this country.
Now, several things going on here. First of all, I find it incredibly ironic that, the indicted president of the United States, who's been indicted for, numerous felonies, is the law and order guy somehow. And somehow or another people believe that. They believe that the only guy to be indicted for felonies, to serve as president of the United States, is also the only guy that somehow respects the rule of law. He has no respect for the rule of law whatsoever. Of course, he doesn't have respect for anything, so why would you expect him to have respect for the rule of law? But, all right, so take that and then add in the whole Alcatraz thing. Now, he says that he was supposed to be a movie maker. It's the first time I've ever heard him say that, but, I mean, of course, he makes the best movies. Or he would. But he just rambles incoherently that, no one ever escaped from Alcatraz, so we should reopen it again. never taking into account the fact that maybe, I'm just throwing this out there as a hypothetical, maybe it closed for a reason. And while it is true that no one has been documented having escaped from Alcatraz, there are rumors that, I think it was 3 men one time did escape, but just rumors. So no proof that anyone ever did. So, I mean, as far as, like, prisons go, yeah, sure, it's secure. Which leads me to another thing. So he talks about Alcatraz. In that same press conference, he mentioned Sing Sing. And then, of course, we got the prisons in El Salvador. We got Guantanamo. Why is Donald Trump so infatuated with sending people to prison? I don't fully understand this. Now, look, I believe that people who have done things wrong should go to prison. I believe that people should atone for their wrongdoings or pay for it in some way or another, et cetera, et cetera. But this is like fetish material. This is like weird, like not normal. Not that anything the guy does is normal. Literally nothing the guy ever does is normal. But I will give him this. He did actually complete some sentences. Now, I cut the question and answer off a little bit early because he does, after that, ramble a little more and makes no sense whatsoever. But I can't fathom why anyone would think that this was a great idea. And it was, trending on Twitter yesterday. Everybody's all about Alcatraz. Yay, Alcatraz. Let's reopen Alcatraz. And I don't understand why we would want to reopen Alcatraz. Do we have like a prison shortage? Not to the best of my knowledge. In fact, I think we've got a lot of people in prison that shouldn't be in prison. We've still got people in prison for minor drug offenses that should have been let go, forever ago once they decriminalized the offenses that they did. As far as I'm concerned, if you're in prison for something and then they make what you went to prison for legal or, decriminalize it, you should just automatically be let go, retroactively. I don't know. But Donald Trump, as always, on the cutting edge of idiocy. And so, one of his big things right now, and he's got several, but one of his, today, or at least yesterday, who knows, maybe by today he will have forgotten it. But by tomorrow, definitely he will. I mean, he will have moved on to something completely different because that's how his brain works, or doesn't work, I should say. So reopening Alcatraz, apparently a big deal. It's a thing that should be done, according to Trump, according to the Pope Trump, which brings us to the next thing. So a lot of people are up in arms about Donald Trump and his photo of himself on social media dressed as the Pope. Some people think that it's just a meme, it's no big deal, blah, blah, blah. These same people were absolutely freaking mortified when Barack Obama wore a tan suit. A tan suit was just too far. That was unpresidential, something that should never be done. Oh my God, Obama wore a tan suit. You might as well just, send him to Alcatraz. Because there is no possible crime that could be as bad as wearing a tan suit. And then you've got Donald Trump sending out memes of him dressed as the Pope and him running over people with trains and just all of these things that would be inappropriate for me to do, would be inappropriate for you to do. Now, it's a free country and you can say what you want to. You have the right to be an asshole, but man, this guy is really overusing that right. And so a lot of people are upset about it, particularly Catholics. And that's understandable. I mean, the Pope is a big deal to the Catholic Church and to people of the Catholic faith. I personally am not a Catholic, but I've always been kind of like Catholic light. Like, to me, the Pope was always a big deal. Lent is a big deal. Like, I like fish fries. So I'm not Catholic. In fact, I'm not really religious at all anymore. But I do think that it's too much. There's no reason that anyone should act like this. And there's definitely no reason that the leader of the free world, alleged leader of the free world, the President of the United States, should act like this. And there is definitely no reason that his sycophantic cult member fans should think that it's okay. But dude, these people, and I say these people as a pejorative because I don't like them. I'm going to put it right out there right now. If you voted for Donald Trump, we're not friends. And if we are quote-unquote friends, I don't really like you. I tolerate you. But if you think that what that guy does is okay, we're not on the same level. And I think less of you as a human being than I used to. I'm just throwing that out there, all right? And you know what? Maybe that's going to make you not like me. That's fine. I didn't need your friendship. But I don't understand how people can think that what we have got in the office right now is okay in any way, shape, or form. I do not comprehend the cult. There are times when I wish I did. There are times when I really, man, I wish I understood what was going through their minds. But then I think to myself, no, they're frickin' lunatics, and I don't want to understand what's going on in their minds, because the only way to do so would be for me to be a lunatic as well. And I don't want to be a lunatic. I like being moderately sane. Now, some of you, the Trumpers that are listening, and by the way, if you are, just go listen to another show. Joe Rogan is talking some shit about something right now. Go listen to him. You don't need this show, and I don't need you. But if you are going to continue to listen, I'm going to throw you the truth. So for the Trumpers that are listening, let me just tell you, nobody likes you. You think that you're all that, and you're not. And maybe you don't like me, and I'm okay with that. And you'll be like, oh, Scott, how can you be okay with Biden and Democrats and abortion and gun control and this, that, and the other thing? Dude, all right, so first of all, Joe Biden was a decent human being. Was he suffering from dementia? I have no doubt. Did he have his full faculties during his 4 years in office? Probably not. I'm sure he had good days. I'm sure he had bad days. But overall, it was his administration. And it was an administration of compassion. And I am a big fan of compassion. So even though he may not have been fully, quote-unquote, in control, I'm okay with it. Because if you're going to tell me that you think that Donald Trump is in control of his faculties, that's another thing, too. And it doesn't have to be, we don't have to go back and forth on that. Let's just talk about Biden for a minute. So, Joseph Biden, the former president of the United States, he made mistakes, sure. But for the most part, I feel like he owned up to them. Were we better off at the end of his term than at the beginning of his term? Oh, God, no doubt. Not even close. And then, of course, Trump took the reins and just immediately started going off the rails. But I'm okay with Biden. I am, generally speaking, okay with Democrats. And again, it's a compassion thing. It's an empathy thing. It's a they actually care about people thing. And then you jump in with, but Scott, they want to murder all the... No one wants to murder all the fucking babies. It's just not true. No one is excited about abortion. Let me stop. There may be 1,000th of 1% of people who are psychopaths who are excited about abortion. The rest of us, the vast majority of people who believe that abortion should be legal in some manner or another, understand that it's a difficult thing. But up until a year ago, the United States Supreme Court said that it was constitutionally guaranteed, just like the Second Amendment. So even though I might not love abortions in theory, I understand their necessity. I understand why they should not be outright made illegal. But while we're on that, can we also talk about the fact that we probably don't need AR-15s? I don't know. I mean, if one thing can have a little bit of a slope, maybe another one can too. Because now, personally, I've never had an abortion. This should not shock you. I am a male. So I've never been pregnant. And having never been pregnant, I've never had the occasion to need an abortion. To the best of my knowledge, no one that I've ever dated has had an abortion because of me. We'll put it that way. But they want to make health care illegal, telling me that I'm a bad guy. No, not buying it. Not buying any of it. Then you've got the people that are like, oh, Democrats are all enablers, and they're grooming children. Dude, every time you look at the news, you see people getting arrested for porn and child entrapment and trafficking and what have you. Every single one of them is a Trump supporter. How do I know? Because they got the Trump sunglasses, and they're wearing the Trump hat, and they've got the Trump trading cards. You people do make it easy to tell who you are, which I appreciate, by the way. Because it tells me who to avoid. I go out places, and I see people with their Trump hats, and I go, all right, that's the asshole that I don't want to talk to. I go out places, and I see people with their Trump shirts, and I'm like, all right, let's sit on the other side of the bar away from that guy. Or I go out, and people just decide that they want to tell me about their politics. For the most part, I don't want to talk about politics. Now, obviously, here on this show, on Here's the Thing, on All West New York Radio, I am going to talk about politics. This is an outlet for me, and you can choose to listen to it or not listen to it. But if you're going to blather about politics at the bar, where I don't really have much of a choice of whether to listen or not, again, you're the asshole. And the world is just so full of them. So I really feel like I went on a tangent there. I'm not sure that I said anything that I meant to say, and probably said things that I shouldn't have said, but it is what it is. All right, one more Trump stupidism, and then I remember that. So tomorrow we've got so I thought about calling this show the Derailed Train of Thought or something like that, because this is me. I am not on Ritalin. I don't have ADHD. But my train of thought is all over the place. I blame social media. So, tomorrow is the 450th episode of the Think So Joe Show. And earlier I had asked Joe if he could join us for a few minutes to talk about it. So, Joe is going to join us for just a few minutes to talk about his 450th episode of the Think So Joe Show on All West New York Radio. So, we only have a few more minutes to talk about what we want to talk about here. So, I still have two more topics that I want to discuss. Let's see if I can sneak them both in. First of all, another brilliant Trump plan wants to pay immigrants $1,000 to leave. So, first of all, they're talking about trying to save money, but meanwhile we're literally just going to hand people $1,000 to leave. That doesn't seem like a great saver of money. Secondly, once all these immigrants leave, and this is going to sound uncouth, if you will, but all of the jobs that the immigrants are here doing, especially migrant workers, people who are here legally, who are getting tossed out of the country anyway, who's going to do those jobs? Who's going to pick the crops in Niagara County, for example? You know, I know a few people in Niagara County that own farms, and a lot of their workers come here on a migrant basis. Are they still going to be able to have their crops picked? I don't know. I feel like they're not. I feel like I've seen stories all over the United States of farmers saying, uh-oh, we don't have any workers anymore. How come nobody wants to work anymore? Well, they did want to work. You kicked them out of the country, you numbskull. But anyway, so paying people $1,000 to leave doesn't make much sense to me. Maybe you disagree. And if you do, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. The show obviously gets podcast at allwnyradio.com, as well as allwnyradio.libsyn.com, and you can leave your comments there and let me know what you think. And if you disagree with me, you are welcome to disagree with me. It is America, and you have a right to be wrong. Lastly, one more topic real quick before we get Joe Kent, Think So Joe, on the show to discuss the 450th episode. My mind is blown. That is 9 years worth of shows. And he's taking a week off here and there, but pretty much dude is a machine. Anyway, one more thing I want to talk about. Yesterday, the Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of March, or the 5th of May, Skype died. I don't know if you realize this or not, but Skype, the old school telephony program that allowed you to call people and FaceTime people, and well, it wasn't even called FaceTime. It was called Skyping. Skype was a verb. Skype was a big deal. Skype kind of owned the internet, and then 10, 15 years ago or so, Microsoft bought them, and it just screwed everything up from there. But yesterday was the last day of Skype. I used to use Skype a lot for work, and in fact, just recently I stopped using it because they said that it was going to die. But I'm kind of sad about it. There are, of course, many other options that you can use instead of Skype, but it's kind of sad. Another instance where we've got this major company that buys this thing and they don't know what to do with it. I feel like Google does that a lot. I feel like Google buys a lot of things and they're like, what do we do with it? We don't know. We'll just let it languish and die. Google is king of the languishing and dying. But one thing that doesn't languish and die is the Think So Joe Show. So, quick break, just so I can hit a liner and get Joe patched in by phone, and we're going to talk to Joe Kent, host of the Think So Joe Show, here on All Western New York Radio. You're listening to Here's the Thing. My name's Scott Leffler. I will be right back. You're listening to All Western New York Radio, home of the Think So Joe Show, 6 p.m. Wednesdays. Tune in or miss out. We are rebooting Here's the Thing after a 7-year hiatus or whatever. My buddy Joe Kent, also known as Think So Joe, has been doing a show on All Western New York Radio pretty much unimpeded since we rebooted All Western New York Radio in 2016. And tomorrow night, the 7th of May, he is doing his 450th show. Dude, kudos.
Well, I appreciate it. I don't know if the wrestling podcast might have been longer, but this is 450. We missed a few weeks, but nothing, not any real significant time with this show.
Definitely. Now, I know that, before I retook the helm at All Western New York back in 2016, you were thinking about doing something of your own. And so basically, like, you already had all these things in mind, and then things just kind of worked out. And I'm like, hey, like, here's a thing. And you're like, yeah, let's do that thing. And it has been going pretty much nonstop ever since. You got 4 different artists that you feature each week. You talk about what's going on in the world. I know you've had a variety of guests between, different bandmates and friends and, what have you. But it keeps evolving, and yet at the same time, it is still the Think So Joe Show. It's still the same show, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
Anything special for this?
I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's what works. Is just it is. That's how I've been doing podcasts for years. 347 was the number on the wrestling podcast, so we did not make 450 there. But that's how I've been doing podcasts for years. It's just me and my friends just hanging out, and we just happen to be now we're on camera. It used to be just talking into microphones. Now we're hanging out on camera, and we have the chat open up for everybody, and it gets to be interesting sometimes.
When I was deciding to start this, I considered doing the whole camera YouTube thing, and I was like, you know what, people don't really want to see me. So I decided to skip that part. We're just, we're going straight to the radio, and then we'll podcast everything thereafter. But yeah, you really have a multimedia empire. I think that you might be one of the few people I know that owns more domain names than I do.
It's possible.
I
have domain names that I'm not using, which is crazy.
The other day, I happened across 716bands.com, which I know you registered 10 years ago, and apparently you just kept up because at $12 a year, why not, right?
Yeah. 716bands.com, you can find the audio version of the podcast. And then I also have thinksojoeshow.com, where you can find the video version of the podcast.
So this week, the 450th show, any special fireworks, live in-studio guests, dancing girls, anything like that?
The dancing girls would be nice, but no, it's just more of the same, I think. Just me and John sitting here bullshitting and hoping we entertain people for a couple hours.
John has been a great co-host for you because he's kind of like an everyman. John is like, I really feel like John represents the rest of us.
John is the Garth to my Wayne, and we proved that on Halloween because we dressed as Wayne and Garth for the Halloween episode.
Nice. Now, of course, John is the drummer in your band. Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying that's correct.
Yeah. And any other bandmates have the opportunity to co-host with you, or is he the only one that you were able to convince?
Everybody in the band has been in the studio on the show at some point, either with either just like, hey, we're going to just get together and all just do this, or my other guitar player, Joe, he's in The Last Brain. They've been in the studio. We actually had them and the Living Brain Dead in the studio, so we had, like 10 people in this 12 by 12 room here.
Nice. And see, now I've got this huge studio, the office that we have in Niagara Falls, and no one's ever here. So I'm actually kind of excited about doing the show because, people will actually be in studio. Some of my guests, obviously, we're going to do by phone just because it's easy. But whenever I have a band in, it's more difficult to do 3 or 4 people by phone as opposed to, like, why don't you guys just drive up and bring pizza while you're at it?
That sounds like a plan. Somebody should bring us pizza.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, this week's musical guest, do you have any idea who that is yet?
Not yet. No, I usually on Wednesday mornings I kind of wake up and I go and I search events and I see who's playing. It makes it easier when the bands actually invite me to their shows because then I have the event pages right there. But sometimes it's really difficult to find 4 events going on in a weekend.
Sure. And
sometimes it takes me about 5 minutes.
Now, you mostly play new tracks, though, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
I have decided that I'm going to, similar to you, I'm going to do a track every half hour. But I'm using the whole library. And, in fact, one of the tracks this week is from a band called Flow Like Niagara. And I have had this track in my music library for 19 years. I don't know who this band is. I don't know where they're from. But I do like the song, and so I'm going to play it. We've also got, allegedly, a new track by Zach Ward that we're going to have later in the show.
I saw Zach at Jackrabbit a while back, and he did the best cover I've ever heard of any song. It was Cult of Personality by Living Colour.
He is
an amazing rendition.
He is a very talented guy. It's kind of annoying, to be honest with you.
My old high school buddy. He used to, when I met him, he was doing Frank Sinatra songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's come a long way since. He's an amazing talent.
If you can do it, you can do it. All right, Joe, dude, I really appreciate you stepping in here. I didn't have too much time, but I wanted to give you at least a couple minutes just to remind folks that, like, tomorrow is a big deal. And if you're taking the time to listen to this show, you should also take the time to listen to the Think So Joe show. And rumor has it, Joe, we might have more podcasts coming, but we'll see what happens.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Have a good one, man.
You too, Scott. Take care.
All right. All right, thanks again to Joe. And now we're going to take our first real break, if you will. We're going to play a song by First Ward. That's Zach Ward's old band. Zach's going to join us later in the show. But on the other side of the song by First Ward, we're going to be joined by Niagara County Legislator Christopher Robbins. And Chris is going to talk about the Amazon project in the town of Niagara. Now, Chris wrote a letter to the editor. He wrote a letter to a variety of people. All West New York Radio, All West New York News, I should say, ran the letter a week or so ago. And so I got a hold of Chris and I said, hey, so I've got this podcast that I'm going to start, and I would like you to be a guest. I don't know if you know who I am or not. And he's like, oh, I know who you are. And that was a little ominous, but he did agree to do the show nonetheless. So he's going to join us. We're going to talk about Amazon and maybe some other things. I don't know, a couple of Falls guys talking about Falls things. So we'll talk with him. And, by the way, my plan is to, in addition to podcasting the entire show, to podcast the interviews separately. So if you just want to listen to, the Chris Robbins interview over and over and over again, you can. Or if you want to listen to the part with Drew later over and over and over again, you can. Or if, you've got this thing about Zach Ward and you just can't, you just need to listen to his voice over and over again, you can. But right now we're going to take a quick break, play some music. When I come back, Niagara County Legislator Christopher Robbins.
Is it just Scott Leffler is a professional talk show host in a controlled environment. Please do not attempt to have opinions at home.
Joining us by phone today is Niagara Falls legislator Christopher Robbins, and we're going to talk about some concerns that he has about the new Amazon warehouse that's going up out by the Niagara Falls Air Base. Chris, thank you so much for joining me. I don't know if you know this or not, but you are my first guest of the new season, if you will. And I say season, the last season was 7 years ago. So it's kind of a reboot, kind of a new season. I'm just, I have a little bit of spare time, and Brad Ryder got a new show on WLVL, and I'm like, well, I can't be shown up by Brad Ryder. So I decided I'd get my own show. So thank you so much for joining me.
And I guess it's an honor to be your first guest.
Well, these are interesting times, and personally, I go by the new Amazon building all the time, and I swear to God, it looks like they're going to open it next week. Every time I go by, it's even further and further and further ahead than it was, and I think to myself, how do they move this fast? Now, Chris, is this going to be the biggest building in the county?
Oh, I definitely think it's the biggest building in the county. I'm not sure. I'm going to guess it is. Obviously, when you drive by, you take a look at it, and you're like, it's almost like, oh my gosh, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So it's definitely, it is huge. And I when you do square footage, it's got to be one of the biggest. And at the same time, I think we know the transformation of where we are, that the main streets turn to the malls, and the malls are turning to Amazon, I guess, unfortunately. That's how things did throughout my life. I remember shopping for clothes on Main Street in Niagara Falls or whatever, and unfortunately right now there's not too many businesses left on Main Street. Then I remember going out to the Summer Park Mall, and obviously that's no longer, and some of the other malls in Western North
you
have gone down.
Chess King, right?
What's that?
Chess King?
My IOU sweatshirt.
Yeah,
exactly. And then I went to, and now it's Amazon. You come home from work and you're like, oh, there's my 4 boxes. So.
Well, it just, on the same note, I was thinking the other day when I was driving by, what a change to the quote-unquote neighborhood that is, because I used to get my milk there, growing up, not me, but my parents. There's a dairy practically across the street, or at least used to be, and we literally went and got our milk there. And now, there's this huge, absolutely mammoth Amazon warehouse. And, the construction has been going on, and things change here and there. I noticed some, temporary lights, and then they move things around a little bit. But obviously there are going to be traffic concerns with anything this huge. Now, I saw that you sent a letter to Niagara County has like a liaison for the traffic. Is that right?
Yep, I think that's a good term to use for it. Yeah, basically we have for the site for making sure that our things are being done at the site for it, and what my concerns were is, and I, it's hard, last week when I wrote the letters, it was that day with the windy storm, and I was interviewed by some of the other television channels, and when I did them, I mean, obviously dust was blowing all over the place and everything like that, and it was dirty and things like that. Those are inevitable with some of those things.
Sure.
But my main thing was at that point, and the economic development for Niagara County and where we were, I'm 100% supportive of having it there. I do know, that there is going to be traffic concerns. I'm at the point right now, and I laughed at some people, oh, why didn't you think of this before? Oh, we thought of it. Everyone thought about it.
I'm not going to lie. I had the same question when I got your letters. I was like, it's kind of a little late now, isn't it?
Yeah, and believe me, right when they said they're going to do it, why didn't it go on Grand Island? They didn't want the traffic. Why didn't it go here? They didn't want to. Everyone knows that that's one of the concerns.
Sure. Is it just more than you thought it was going to be, Chris?
I don't think so. I really don't think it's anything different. I just think it's right now is just making sure that we're on top of some of the things that they can do while building. I was there the one day and watching a truck come out with so much mud on its tires that, a construction truck coming out that in front of these houses that, it just was a mud flying off all over the place and doing those kind of things. I think those are some of my main concerns. you also have to, put into the factor. I mean, I think we're well aware of when you order a T-shirt from Amazon or whatever you order, it's there the next day. Amazon is not in the business of being slow. So
right.
they don't want to be in traffic jams. That's not what they're doing. So they've done their marketing studies and they've done their things. They're with us. They don't want traffic. They want that to move right along as much as the people in town in Niagara and everywhere else. So and they've done their traffic studies. I think we're good. Obviously, I don't think it's with something that large as well as the amount of things going on, there's going to be an increase in traffic. The reconfiguring of the street is not done right now. Right now we're in construction. The street is going to be 100% reconfigured. There's, turns in and turns out, lights and everything that's going on. So I think at that point is when we will really get the idea. One of the parts of my letter, I think that you've seen, is I want right now the thought process of, an on and off ramp on Lockport Road. I think
that was the thing that really stuck out the most to me. Is like that seems to me like a pie in the sky sort of like dream. I just feel like getting an on and off ramp to an interstate shoot off or whatever that is there. That's a big ask.
It 100% is, and I think when people are saying, why didn't you think of this before? Everyone thought of that at that time too, but with that at the same time, we were going to, I think people are. You thought we were going to get an on and off ramp on Lockport Road before they built the Amazon project?
Right.
That wasn't going to happen. If right now we already start the process and people find out, is it a pie in the sky? I don't know that answer. Will they come back and say, Chris, to do an on and off ramp at that thing cost, I'm going to use hyperbole, $100 million, or it costs, $5 million. I don't know the price on doing those kind of things. We have to see what that, I guess, how long the field goal is. Is it a makeable field goal type of thing? Right.
Now, currently the entrances and exits are on Lockport and Tuscarora, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Are there any plans to use Hasley, which runs kind of behind it?
I'm not real sure. I don't think it is not for... There possibly is an entrance for workers, I believe, on that, but not for vehicles that would Amazon vehicles.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Is it more logistically complicated considering that you're basically butting up against an international airport and a military base? I imagine there has to be all sorts of more limitations built into the project and, the traffic and everything that goes into it because of those factors. Is that right?
Yeah, I do think that there is some limitations. I think that there's some possibilities too because of that.
Sure.
I think you can easily think of down the road when we're talking about a warehouse that big, and now you can add in flying things in and out. That could make it into a different, a whole different type of facility. So I mean, obviously, and then the air base at the same time. Obviously the security issues and those kind of things to make it a little more difficult. Both of those are not easy, we can just go and add another road through there or things like that because they're, both highly secured, I guess.
Well, once Amazon becomes like an, official arm of the military, they're right there.
Yeah, exactly.
They already have the drone program, so they're in that direction. Chris, let's back up a little bit because we really should have started here.
Sure.
All right, so you are a legislator from Niagara Falls for the Niagara County Legislature, one of 3 Democrats. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Now I'm
the minority leader.
I thought that they had outlawed the Democratic Party in Niagara County as a whole like 10, 15 years ago, but some of you still exist. I was completely unaware.
Yeah. Well, believe me, it's getting smaller. It definitely is getting smaller.
So how does the minority contingent get along with the rest of the legislature? You're vastly outnumbered, which is weird because, when we were younger, it was the other way around. It was Democrats were in charge, and there was one Republican out in Heartland going, hey, what about me?
Yep. Yeah. Basically, right now, how it is set up, I represent an area of Niagara Falls as well as town of Niagara, the DeVoe area of Niagara Falls mostly, and then the town of Niagara, and also off of High Park Boulevard. What's that? The east side of High Park Boulevard, and going into the town of Niagara. Jeffrey Elder, who's Center City of Niagara Falls, as well as we have one representative, Carla Speranza, out from the Lockport area. So it is only three of us. As a whole, I will tell you, I really enjoy my working relationship with my colleagues on the Republican side, and I think it works in different ways in this. Obviously, as a minority, that there's a lot of different things that you're not going to be able to get accomplished.
Right.
But I think that Dave, as a whole, I don't want to say they're not as intimidated against us when we are only three. So I think they say, okay, what can Chris offer? What can Jeff or Carla offer? And I think that has helped. Whereas if it was 8-7, I think we would be constantly looking for control. But unfortunately for me, as again minority leader as well as the Democratic side, it would be a miracle for us to win the elections and take over the majority, whereas I think they were a lot more contentious over the past years when it was I want to say closer,
right.
at least, or like you said, or, going from one group to the other, meaning, going, red to blue type of thing.
Sure. Well, I mean, I did obviously, got your press releases from Kevin Schuler. Is he the clerk of the legislature?
Yep. He is not. He's public information.
He's just I for some reason, I was thinking that the PIO was always the clerk.
Yeah. Well,
but,
I want to say if the Democrats were in charge, we might have something like that more, like that.
Right.
Our configuration a few years ago when we were configuring those things, that would be, how we would look at it in there. I think one thing as, being in the minority is we can constantly say the things that we could fix, and then that's one of the advantages.
That is one of the advantages of not being in charge, is nothing's ever your fault.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. When someone says this is bad or this is going on, I say, well, blame it on those guys.
Right.
And that's probably one thing that to have a good working relationship, I try not to do as much as on that, and they keep me more in the loop because that I wouldn't do that as much rather than just every meeting or every time or everything like that. Believe me, we disagree all over the place, but I don't go in there and just keep throwing bomb after bomb after bomb and say, what's going on, where is, and then they're more likely to bring me in to say, okay, can you help us solve these things?
How long have you been in the legislature, Chris?
Oh, boy, now for some reason, I'm thinking I'm off. It's going to be 8 years.
8 years, all right. So this is your...
And I'm up for re-election right now, and I have another 2-year term coming up.
Gotcha.
And it looks
so
like
you're wrapping up your fourth and running for your fifth.
Yep.
Okay. Were you politically active prior to that? School board, city council, anything like that?
I was a Niagara Falls city councilman, and then at one time after being a Niagara Falls city councilman, I took some time off from government. My children were young. My wife is the dean of the College of Education at Niagara University, and then I work for the Niagara Falls School District. And one of the issues that I would have, basically time at that point, and saying, I would rather go out to my kids' baseball game than talk to Scott Leffler podcast, I guess. Those kind of things. So
if I had a choice of being at a baseball game right now as opposed to on my podcast, I would as well.
Exactly.
Speaking of baseball,
are the kind of things that,
Speaking of baseball, it is obviously baseball season, and the Niagara Falls Americans are back at Sale Magley Stadium starting next month, I think. I want to say early June they start.
Right.
I want to say early June they start their second season. Did you get a chance to see any of those games last year?
I did. I am a sponsor. I sponsor some of the things that I sponsor out there is the connection with the Americans with the Little Leagues in Niagara Falls. So I sponsor a Little League night there. Definitely a passion of mine. Growing up, Sam Magley Stadium was important for me. I played in there as a high school baseball player throughout. And then also, I go back to the Niagara Falls Pirates and Rapids and Mallards all the way through.
Oh, I forgot the Mallards. I used to go to Rapids games all the time. Me and a couple buddies, we basically grew up in Sal Magley Stadium. We would go to game after game after, and we went and we walked around and we ate hot dogs and drank pop and we met girls.
And we ran for foul balls. That was it. And I have fond memories of that too. And the White Sox during that time, the White Sox and all the kids would go out into the outfield, or whatever. We were the bleacher bums or whatever they would call us, and we would all sit out there. And the same thing with me. It was a different time, and that was always wow. If you could go to the ball game or walk over, there's a baseball game, and it's affordable, it's fun, and obviously amazing talents went through there over the years too.
Oh yeah. It is good to see that the Americans are trying to bring that back. This year, All WNY Radio has a partnership with them as well. We've got we're gonna do some things for them. They're gonna do some things for us. So. And they actually reached out to us, which is a real sign that last year we tried to do a decent job of covering them. They apparently noticed, and the fact that they noticed and reached out to us, I think is a sign that they're trying to do the right thing.
They do, and I know, and throughout the league it's different, and it's definitely a challenge. I think we understand where Niagara Falls is, or it's not what it was when we were kids, right. It's a depressed community right now, and trying to make it better. But these are the small things that we do need, and where a family could go see a baseball game for $20. That's amazing, right. That's what we need. We need more of those kind of things.
There are a lot of cool things going on, though. I mean, so I'm in the old Carborundum building, which is, the corner of Buffalo Avenue and Portage. Yep. And, right behind the building right now, the helipad's built, but I believe they're supposed to open later this month. And that was the goal. I know it got moved back a little bit, I think, but that's exciting there. I think that's one of the spots that people don't realize that it is going on there. Yeah. And then I know that the mayor or somebody is in negotiations to try and build, was it an ice rink not too far from here?
Yep. Yeah, and that's been a hot topic of controversy, I guess, is the mayor is trying to do...
you can't have anything with NFR without there being controversy.
Yeah, exactly.
They used to have their office in this building, actually.
Yeah, they're not there anymore? I was going to say...
maybe they still are technically, but I never see them around.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, hey, I really do appreciate your time. Is there anything else that you wanted to let the people know about before we get you back to your lunch?
No. I think overall, like I said, I hopefully everyone knows that they can reach out to me, and I'm available anytime that they have questions or concerns. And when we circle back around to Amazon, that's where that process started from that. Some concerned citizens said, what about this? What about that? And when it was certain things, there were things like, I think those are things that we can do right now and should be being done. I was able to, say, all right, let me see how I can do and help with that. Right. So I think it is, that I'm available. People can contact me anytime. And same with you, Scott. I'm more than willing to be your whatever visitor on your podcast down the road to 100th or something like that, or 50th.
I appreciate that.
So you got my number, and we'll definitely be available.
All right, and same here. If you need anything, you know how to get a hold of me. Feel free to reach out.
Yep, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much, Christopher Robbins. All right.
Yep. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, and as we have been talking about Niagara Falls, we're going to close out with some Niagara music. Actually, the track in question is called Just Chill. It's from an artist called Flow Like Niagara, and I don't know much about this artist. I can tell you this. We have had this track in our library pretty much since the beginning. Going on close to 20 years now, we've had this track from Flow Like Niagara called Just Chill. It's an electronic beat. I quite enjoy it. You may not. I certainly hope that you do. But we're going to play this, and this will take us out. And when we come back, we're going to talk sports with Drew McGrath. We're going to talk about the Bills. We're going to talk probably some hockey. Who knows what else. But next section with Drew McGrath coming up right after this song.
Ladies and gentlemen, today, the role of Scott Leffler will be played by Lindy Ruff.
And joining us in our first show, live in studio, it's Drew McGrath. Andrew, I always call you Drew, but I know sometimes you go by Andrew. What do you want the people of Western New York to refer to you as?
Either one is fine. Andrew is my given name, but either one. As long as it's not Andy, I can care less.
All right. Drew's breaking shit already. All right, so Drew's going to come in pretty much weekly. We're going to talk sports with a focus on Buffalo, but a little bit of everything. Obviously, this week, Buffalo sports, the big thing is that the Bandits moved on to the National Lacrosse League Finals again, and now they're off for like a week. I feel like lacrosse is weird.
Yeah, I don't know really how that schedule works or anything too much. And then there was some controversy with the other semi-playoff game or something like that, where it was like they got like 3 penalty shots in a row at the end of the game or something.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was weird. I was reading about it. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, are you a Bandits fan?
Not really. I don't really follow lacrosse or anything.
Have you been to a game?
Try to keep up with like the score.
You ever been to a game?
No.
They're fun. I went to a couple forever ago, and they are fun. They're it's kind of got the hockey atmosphere, but it's not cold like hockey. But they're high scoring. Although some of the games this year have not been. The Bandits had 2 games in a row where they let in, I think, only 4 and only 3 goals, both of which were like new records. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, so they're off until the 16th, and then they're as of right now, their opponent's not yet set.
Yeah, it was like I went to a couple like Blizzards games back in the day.
All right.
Yeah, so other than like either the Bills or the Sabres or the Bisons, other than that, it was only the Blizzards.
All right. Well, the Bills, I know that you've been really chomping at the bit to get the show started, and you really wanted to get in and talk about the draft. Prior to the draft, we weren't able to make that happen. But, since then the draft has happened, and you've had about a week to think about how we did. What are your thoughts on the Bills draft?
Honestly, I really liked the draft. I thought the pick with Maxwell Harrison was a great pick. He's a zone scheme corner who can play man, but also man press. He's got very good makeup speed as well on the ball. So if he's not great at disguising routes
right
as a corner, but I'm okay with that because he can, if need be, have the makeup speed to cover up that. Eventually, and then with the addition of Trey White getting signed back to us,
right,
he can actually learn from Trey, the system and everything like that, faster now because he's got that veteran presence who already knows everything about the scheme
right,
to help him with those deficiencies that he had.
Now, are these holes that you think we needed filled?
Corner, definitely, because if we remember the divisional, the AFC Championship game and the divisional game, Baltimore in that second half was starting to put it on us, throwing the ball.
Right.
Kansas City has always been able to throw against us. They've always been able to make a certain play when they've needed it.
Right.
From a wide receiver. Now that we can have a possible shutdown corner, and as long as he stays healthy and is not injured or banged up throughout the year, then it can limit some of those opportunities that those other teams get.
So with the addition of Hairston and White, are there still holes that we have?
No, I think actually because our second-round pick was a defensive tackle who's a very, like a rush defensive tackle, needing pressure from the interior line, right up the middle, which was one of Patrick Mahomes' weak spots. In the 2 Super Bowls he had that he lost, he was Tampa Bay put pressure up the middle, Philly smacked pressure up the middle, and just all game long they did that. And he couldn't step up and move, really.
So I realize it's only May. We've got, several months before we really, really need to think about football. But, dude, it's Western New York, and people are thinking about football no matter what. So how's this year look to you?
I don't know how our team's going to be. We did also sign this Elijah Moore guy after Brandon Bean went on the radio and blasted the 2 guys on.
I want to talk about that.
Saying that we didn't need a receiver or anything like that, and just so happens to be then right after the draft, he signed Elijah Moore. But it came out though that Elijah Moore was already here visiting on Saturday during the draft.
Is that a scandal?
No.
I don't know what's allowed and what's not.
But but it was just never announced.
Gotcha.
Because then, if it was announced that he would have been doing that, then everybody's going to think that Buffalo's not taking a receiver.
Gotcha.
So also, it's like you want the element of surprise in the aspect of Buffalo. Like, hey, we can choose a receiver that we like if we feel that he's there, not and keeping that on back burners. So that's kind of what happened with that. But other than that, I think our draft went very well. There's this one guy who I really want to see play. His name was Deion Walker. 2023, his film from his games had a mid to high first round grade.
All right.
Last year played with a back injury, dropped him all the way down to the round. We got him in 4. So if we can get him back healthy, he's a 6'7", 331, big, bulking guy that can help us stop the run, but also can make plays.
That's a big if,
backfield. So, yeah, back injuries are dangerous, especially for a lineman. Getting and 6'7", he's got to get real low at times. So we'll see how that works. But it's to me though, it was a great opportunity to take a swing. We already have a lot of guys that are already playing on this team and established, and there's really not a lot of spots to make this team with our depth. But if you're going to take a chance, I want it to be on somebody who's got high upside.
Sure.
Instead of a real low floor. It's
high risk, high reward.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, it's a 4th round pick. It's not. You're not investing huge amount of stuff into it.
So I saw last night the Buffalo Bills posted something. Josh Allen reading mean tweets. Did you happen to see it?
No, but I love when I love it. There's a late night show that I think it's the Kimmel.
Yeah, one of them does it. In fact, more than one of them may do it, but they're always fun.
Yeah, and then they're reading it, and their facial expressions afterwards are hilarious when you see them.
So this is funny because it's Josh Allen reading mean tweets from draft night when he was originally drafted.
Oh, okay.
And they're all pretty typical. The wrong Josh. Why are you doing this to me?
You can't throw.
The very last one says, "Damn it, no! Why can we never get things right?" Now this one really, really tickled me. This is my friend George. I've mentioned my friend George Root, who used to write for All Western New York. Passed away of cancer a few years ago, but it was really kind of cool to see the Bills, dust off this old 7-year-old, 8-year-old?
So 2018 was his draft.
Yeah, so seven-year-old tweet from my friend George, who's been gone a while. It was kind of cool to see. I'm sure that George would be happy to know that he was wrong, as he was frequently. It was one of the, he was like you in that way, wrong
great.
a lot.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So this past weekend was the Micah Hyde charity game, and I know we've gone to that in the past. I didn't get a chance to go this year, but I understand that Keon Coleman did amazing things.
Well, so Keon actually has a baseball background.
All right.
Yeah. With basketball as well.
Was it last year that we went?
Yeah, we went last year.
And Alan just kept hitting dingers, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, in the home run derby. Yeah. It was great. Yeah, that was nuts. And he actually put the most impressive one I thought was when he actually put it, because they have that makeshift fence in the outfield.
Right.
When we were there watching it. He actually put it over the actual fence.
Right.
I'm like, that's a shot.
Well, and it's funny because, so we're there, watching the game, and then they've got the highlights later, and the Bills post the highlights, and it's just Allen, hitting home run after home run after home run, including some that go over the actual fence. And all these people are like, oh, I could do that. And it's like, dude, no, you couldn't. I think that people's delusion is hilarious, and the hatred that people have for strangers is just, cause most of the, I could do that, I'm pretty sure we're from Kansas City. And I don't know why, you have to hate any other team's quarterback. Like, everybody here hated Brady. I was always okay with Brady. I think most people here hate Mahomes. I am mostly okay with Mahomes, although he is kind of whiny. But that
was my thing with Brady.
That he was whiny?
Yeah,
it worked, though.
It did. And he also was 30-3 against Buffalo. So, it's like, that also kind of pissed me off, too. It's like, all right, I hate this dude. Because we could never beat him. Like, Mahomes, we actually could beat Mahomes.
Right.
It's just not at the right point.
Exactly. So all right, so we got Brady, we got Mahomes, GOAT quarterbacks. Why was Peyton Manning in Buffalo this weekend?
I have no idea. I didn't even hear about this.
Yeah, Peyton Manning was apparently in Buffalo this past weekend, and
really?
I have no idea why.
Was maybe for something that having to do with, like a charity golf event or something?
I do know there was a big Bills Mafia event this past weekend, too, celebrating the birth of the Bills Mafia with Adam Schefter and all the people that were around when it first started.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So I don't know if it had anything to do with that, but I did see that the Bills posted something about Peyton being here. I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. Buffalo seems to be a destination now, unless you're in hockey.
Yeah, hockey, don't get started with that. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, okay, so this was a known fact. Throughout the 90s, San Francisco and the 49ers and the Bills had the two best records collectively throughout the 90s.
Sure.
Okay? Right now, since this decade, since 2020, it's Buffalo and Kansas City. Kansas City is number 1, Buffalo number 2.
Right.
San Francisco was number 1, Buffalo was number 2. And in that time, we went.
So that's crazy, though. That
4 Super Bowls.
It's crazy, though, that number 1 and number 2 would both be AFC teams. I feel like that statistically is unlikely.
Right. Normally, you would see one real dominant NFC team and one real dominant AFC team. But no, it's been like Buffalo and Kansas City. And Kansas City, I think it's like 5 wins above Buffalo in that stretch.
Right.
So over the last 5 years, basically averaging one more win than Buffalo.
Right.
So, really, are we really that far off from Kansas City? No.
Is this the year? If it's not the year, is there going to be a year?
Okay.
That's my big concern is that I keep feeling like, so last year coming into the season, I didn't think we were going to have a good year. And obviously we did. But now I'm afraid that, all right, maybe last year was the year.
No, because I remember we did that when we faced Kansas City in the AFC Championship game when we had Diggs that first year. Everybody was like, maybe that was our year. And then the year after that, and then a couple years after that, we were still very, very good. So my thing is, this year I thought we could have went 10-7, 11-6. Still good enough to win our division,
right.
But I didn't expect 12 or 13 wins.
Right.
And we had 13. But it's a different offense, but it's a more complete offense because we're actually using running backs.
Right.
Speaking of using running backs, except for the last 9 minutes and 32 seconds of the AFC Championship game, somehow we forgot that we had a running back and didn't use it. When when he put us that third quarter and into the early fourth quarter, James Cook actually put us in the game, back in the game, kept up with Kansas City, and gave us the lead. And then this happens, we stopped using it. And okay, so that Super Bowl.
Drew and I both have issues with coaching, by the way. We'll just put that out there.
So the first year that I actually started watching football was the Bills-Giants Super Bowl year. And if I remember,
Super Bowl 25.
Yeah, so it was Super Bowl 25. I think it was the 1990-1991 Super Bowl. 90 season.
Right.
Well, if you remember, I don't know if you actually remember this. I actually vividly remember this. First half of that game, that Super Bowl 25, Thurman Thomas had 13 touches for like 156 yards. Had 2 touches the whole second half.
Right.
And we lost. And we were like, so this AFC Championship game reminded me of that as when you and I were watching it. I'm like, thinking in my head, oh, Super Bowl 25 all over again. Super Bowl 25 all over again.
But without Whitney.
Right. That was the only good part about that Super Bowl. Still the greatest national anthem of all time.
All right, so I know I'm bouncing all over the place, and I apologize, but I have all these things in my head that I want to get them out. You were talking about the Bills and the 49ers in the 90s had the best records, and now it's the Bills and the Chiefs. I saw an interesting stat yesterday. I want to say it's over the past 10 seasons, Josh Allen is 6th in rushing.
He hasn't even played 10 years.
And that was the point. that was the point of the thing. That was like over the course of the past 10 seasons, Josh Allen is 6th in rushing, despite not playing 3 of those years and being a quarterback.
Yeah. And okay, so he got drafted in 2018. So he's completed 7 seasons. Okay, so he's about to go on his 8th season. And he already leads Buffalo Bills in rushing touchdowns. All time. Dude's a freaking quarterback.
Yeah.
So, like, what's going on here? And we had O.J. Simpson and Thurman Thomas.
Right.
2 guys in the Hall of Fame, and yet he still has more rushing touchdowns than them. Please explain this to me. Like, I don't get that. Like,
in all fairness, a lot of those rushing touchdowns are 1, 2, 3 yards.
Sure, but also, right, and I get it, that the game has evolved and it's more of a throwing game and all that type of stuff. But when people say that too, all I have to do is say Jerry Rice.
Right.
And then that argument's out the window. So he put up 22,000 yards in his career, and he started playing in the 80s. Like 85, he started playing. Heavy running in the 80s, and in early 90s was heavy running eras.
All right, so football is your number 1 sport, right?
Football and baseball, yeah.
Are they tied, or is it 1-2?
So,
I know you played. I know you played both in high school.
Interest?
And if you tell me you're an athlete, I'm literally going to stab you. So I don't want to hear the athlete line, but I do know that you played in high school. Which one of the 2 was your go-to?
Are you asking which one was I better at, or just like interest-wise?
I guess more interest-wise.
Okay, so I've always been more interested in football. It just so happened to be I was really good in baseball.
Right.
I believe now I was more talented in football, but because of my knee injury that I had, it was kind of harder to get back in football, where it was a little bit easier to get back in baseball. So baseball for me ended up being longer.
Much slower contact sport.
Right.
But 162 games a year.
But baseball, well, so I was playing school, travel, and also league ball. So it was still that wear and tear of every day, basically. I did have that tryout, in baseball. But other than baseball was like my second favorite sport.
All right, so from top to bottom, we've got football, then baseball, then
I would say basketball.
All right.
And then everything else after that.
All right.
It was all like basically blended in a tight four.
Not really a hockey fan.
I really never got into hockey. I've been in games. And
Hockey's always been my number 1.
Okay, yeah. Hockey's, but because I never really played it, I really never had any real interest in it.
Right.
Really, so.
Have you been watching the playoffs?
No. But I do have seen...
Dude, there's nothing like Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, you say that, and we've had this debate or discussion. To me, though, teams win series. So better teams normally do tend to win. Obviously, you
make it a best out of 7, and you're more likely to get the better team.
Right.
There's less chance for luck. Not that it doesn't happen, but there's less chance for luck.
Yeah, and then to me, football is actually the best one in playoff format because it's do or die. You have to have it. So it's like a Game 7 every single game.
I get that. I guess the thing that I don't like about that as much is that, you get a team that just has an off game, and they may have been the 72 Dolphins. They may have been the best team, in the history of the NFL, but, somebody stubs their toe on the way into the game, and suddenly you don't have a running back, and you're done.
Right.
That's the thing that I guess I don't like about that is you don't necessarily get the best team. Whereas I feel like in hockey, you're more likely to.
Right. Hockey, baseball, basketball, you have that propensity to have the best that I would say 80 to 90% of the time that the best team wins overall. But with football, it turns out to be though. A lot of times it is the best team that actually wins. It's just. Like Washington, I don't think Washington was a very good team this year. They just had a special player in Jaden Daniels who allowed them and carried them to
and he is special
game. So, but their team wasn't really that good.
Right.
So it can work out like that as well. But it's the pressure of playoff football, and the fact is, like, if you don't try to play your best that whole time. And for 60 minutes, that's it. And a lot of teams, it's hard to keep on getting to where Buffalo or Kansas City get to every year.
Right.
People don't realize the drain it does. And now you're playing these extra games in a very high collision impact with contact sport. Your body human bodies are not meant to be sustaining that much impact.
So I was never an athlete per se. I played hockey. I played some tennis.
What you call playing or
I literally have a knife.
That's okay.
Anyway, so I wasn't what you would call an athlete. But I do know that when I was younger, in my teens and early 20s, I could do anything. And now I'm 50, and I hurt my neck sleeping the other day. I woke up and I was in pain, and I think maybe I had a dream about hurting my neck, and so it hurt in real life.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure that you've noticed I've got this cough. It's been a persistent cough for the last week, and I've been to the doctor and I've taken the medicine, and they tell me I'm getting better, but still sick. And
you sound kind of funny too.
It's just it's difficult when you get older, healing like you used to.
Yeah, and so imagine these guys that are in their primes of their lives, who are pretty well conditioned and trained and work out with weights and all that type of stuff. The beating that they take, and then there's still times that they can't even play a next game, and it's a week later.
Right.
Where you got football or baseball, you got 162 games, and you're pretty much playing every
6
other
days
day.
a week. Yeah.
You're playing pretty much every other day in the playoffs when it comes down to that. Basketball, same thing, pretty much every other day. Hockey, pretty much every other day. Now, to me though, in physicality of sports and everything like that, it's football and then hockey.
Yeah. I would agree. I would certainly agree.
But I would say hockey is probably, because you could have these long careers like Gretzky. We just watched Ovechkin break the record.
Right.
And he's been playing 19 plus years in the league. I think he's 41 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I am inclined to think that if the Caps win the Cup this year, that he retires.
He should, yeah, because there's nothing else to accomplish.
Right.
He's already got the one Stanley Cup. He's got the record for goals now.
Right.
Yeah, it would be a great way to cap it off.
Yeah.
And no, my thing is if they lost, what is their propensity or the need to come back even, regardless. Right. Like, what's the point at that?
Yeah.
Like, just to even make it even that goal record even bigger. Okay,
right.
Like, whatever. And that was like those like. No, I get it though. He could be like a Tom Brady and just love playing.
So yes or no? So but back to Brady. Like I appreciate Tom Brady's ability, but he was always cocky. And the one thing that really drove me nuts about Brady is at the very end of his career, it was over. It was over. He had the kids. He had the supermodel wife. He had the contract with Fox or whatever. All he had to do was say, okay, I'm done. And, like, his ego wouldn't let him do it. And as a result of that, his supermodel wife, Gisele Bundchen, was like, I'm taking the kids and we're out. And so I cannot fathom how that could have been worth it for him.
Actually, what happened, I guess, because he chose to do football that exact last year, that something happened. There was a huge dispute between them, and she ended up messing with the pool boy or the gardener type.
Good
of
for
thing.
him.
And it was like, but I get the drive and the passion he had. And everything like that.
I get it to an extent, but right.
But now it just costs you your family.
Exactly, and
right.
I can't fathom how that could. You've got what 7 Super Bowl rings,
right? So
120 MVP awards, like
that just made 7,
yeah.
right? And the 7th one kind of bothered me because it's like everybody knows Jordan has 6 titles,
right?
He said that he wanted to beat Jordan. His only focus was to beat Jordan. So then, okay, if that was your only
that in and
focus,
of itself is weird too.
But number one, it's not even the same sport.
Right.
But everybody still refers to Jordan as the greatest.
Right.
Okay. So now you got 7. What was playing that extra year? You got 7 the year before. What
right.
Was, it was like stuff like that. It's like. It's more ego and everything like that. So, like, hey, I just came off of a Super Bowl, a winning quarterback. I still got it, and everything like that. Let's re-up my deal one more time, finish out the 2-year deal, everything, and okay, great.
Yeah. All right, backing up.
Hey, just got breaking news.
What's that?
Kicker Justin Tucker, released by the Ravens, in what they call football decision, being accused of inappropriate behavior by 16 massage therapists. So Justin Tucker, probably one of the greatest kickers in the NFL history, released by the Ravens, who drafted a kicker in the draft.
Well, good for them. That was fortuitous of them. Speaking of the draft, the Bills, as you already said, had a pretty decent draft. Brandon Beane thought that the Bills had a pretty decent draft. But apparently the guys at WGR didn't think that the Bills had a decent draft. And Beane went on and just unloaded on them, it was kind of weird. It was kind of awkward. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I get it. What were your thoughts?
The points he was making, I got, and I understood it. He said that he was listening to, before that rant, that he was listening to a few more minutes before that.
Right.
Up to 5 minutes before that, he said, or something like that. And then, it's like, okay, I get it. And, obviously he's going to defend himself and defend, the reason, the choices that he makes and everything like that. Okay. But also your track record hasn't been that good. You've had more misses in the early rounds than you have impact players. Yeah, you've been fortunate and lucky to have. We've had Milano in a 5th round pick, do very well. Christian Bedford, our starting corner, 6th round pick. Yeah, we've had guys like that
right.
have hit. Great, but overall, we've had 1st round picks didn't work out. Kyer Elam, 1st round pick, who was a pure man corner who we tried to force to play zone, didn't work out. He was lost. Didn't know what he was doing. We traded him to Dallas. We got a 7th round pick. So, like...
First round for 7th round, not a very good trade.
Right. Well, this shows that, like, you know, you missed.
Right.
Either that or, like, you're drafting players that, you know, are not fitting what you're trying to do, and you're trying to force them to do that. You're not supposed to make the player fit the scheme. You're supposed to make the scheme fit the players. That's why coaches like Andy Reid and Belichick, when they all the times they're winning, are that philosophy. We have this principle that we want to use, but we make our schemes fit the players we got. We can't make somebody do something they can't do.
Right. I guess the thing for me was that it was just very atypical of a front office, you know, athletic employee to come in with that sort of attitude.
Yeah.
Usually they're very reserved, they're jovial, they joke around a little bit.
It seemed like he was a little classless at that like how he started it.
Like he had just had a bad day and decided to take it out on WGR.
Right, it was kind of classless, and it was in the aspect of like do I even want to be doing this interview? It's like,
right.
Kind of like that smug attitude, like I'm better than this. I don't need to be here, kind of thing. It was like, And then he went off on that rant, which I understand. You know, right after the draft, everybody wants something from the draft. It's just like fans or whatever. Obviously, certain media people around here want the team to look a certain way or whatever. He's obviously got a vision. He's obviously the team has been successful. Yeah, we haven't won the Super Bowl, but we're playing to get to the Super Bowl every year. So, like, what him and McDermott are doing is obviously working. It's just, well, McDermott's a whole another issue for a different episode. But, I just thought at that point it was like, let's show a little bit more class here in that aspect of it.
Real quick, so we're almost out of time. But my guest coming up in just a little bit, Zach Ward, he is our entertainment guest for the week. And among other things, Zach is a member of the Believers, which is the Buffalo Bills house band.
Okay.
So for the past 8 years or something like that, every home game Sunday, he's in the stadium playing with a couple other guys. Maybe the coolest job ever.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. That kid that always supplies the balls every game and runs out on the field, grabs the tee and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't know. Like, that's got to be
Some teams have a dog do that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's got to be a cushy job, though.
Probably didn't make a ton of money, though.
No, but, like, more than likely, though, that kid is probably playing sports in some sort of aspect.
Right.
And as long as he keeps on doing that, he probably has a job in the front office waiting for him.
And the chicks dig it.
He probably has a job waiting for him with the front office people if he needs it, after college or whatever, or while he's in college to get some money, whatever. So good for him.
All right, dude. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about this week?
No. There's a couple things I can set up for next week.
All right.
Definitely.
All right. So this is Andrew, or Drew, as I refer to him, McGrath. He's going to be our sports guy, and he will be here most weeks, and we'll talk about sports, and we'll talk about some other things too. And there are a whole bunch of other things going on that I would love to talk to you about. But I really just wanted to introduce you to the people as the sports guy. But Andrew lives in the city of Niagara Falls. There's a ton of things going on in the city of Niagara Falls that we could talk about. We have, similar interests in movies and music, and, so you might hear him tell you some stories about me at some point. Just know that they are all lies. That is all he is able to do is lie.
Oh. Okay.
But I really appreciate you being here. And we're going to take a break. We're going to play some music, and when we come back, we're going to have Zach Ward here to finish off the first episode of Here's the Thing with Scott Leffler. I'm Scott Leffler, and he is...
This is Drew.
All right. We'll see you soon.
heartbreak. There's nothing worse than feeling your heart break. There's nothing worse than loving someone that doesn't love you back. Oh, my dear, don't you know that my heart loves you? Don't you know that my heart loves you? Oh, my dear, I don't want my heart to love you. No, I don't want my heart to love you. There's nothing worse than spending all your time trying to get someone to love you, even though you know they never will. There's nothing worse than a lover's lie, and all the games you played with me while you were busy loving someone new. Oh, my dear, don't you know that my heart loves you? Don't you know that my heart loves you? Oh, my dear, I don't want my heart to love you. I don't want my heart to love you, yeah. Oh, my dear, don't you know that my heart loves you? Don't you know that my heart loves you? Oh, my dear, I don't want my heart to love you. I don't want my heart to love you, yeah. My dear, don't you know that my heart loves you? Don't you know that my heart loves you, yeah. My dear, I don't want my heart to love you. No, I don't want my heart to love you. No, I don't need my heart to love you. No, I don't want my heart to love you. No, I don't need my heart to love you. No, I don't want my heart to love you. No, I don't need my heart to love you. Oh, precious heart, will you stop loving her?
Ladies and gentlemen, today the role of Scott Leffler will be played by Sam Adams.
Hey, if Sam Adams wants to come take over the show, he is more than welcome to. No, actually, that's not true. I'm quite enjoying the show. And I also enjoyed that last song, by the way. That was a band by the name of Voyager. They won 7 different awards this year in the 2024 All Western New York Awards. And they will be joining us as our musical guest in 2 weeks, I think. They're coming up. And, yeah, but before we get to them, we do have one more guest tonight. So, joining us by phone today is Zach Ward of the Million Projects, or I'm sorry, Zach Ward and the $1 Million Question. Zach, I feel like you're involved in everything. Like every time I hear of a new band, I'm like, Zach Ward's probably in that. You are one of the busiest musicians that I know. What keeps you going?
Well, you know, I like a challenge. I don't know, man. I grew up doing theater, and my parents were both artists, so I always I was brought up hustling, so that's kind of always what I'm doing. Always looking for the next job and trying to stay active. You know, the pandemic kind of threw a big monkey wrench in everything, and I had to do a lot of pivoting. But I'm very happy to be making music now. with the new project called The $1 Million Question. And we're working on a record, and I think it's one of the best things I've ever done, so I'm super pumped on it.
Very, very cool. Now, Zach, you're known for doing a lot of covers, but you do your original stuff as well. Is $1 Million Question an original band, a cover band, a little bit of both?
So, yeah, it's a little bit of both. So this newest thing is like, okay, I'm at a point in my life where I'm not expecting, Barry Gordy to call me and give me a record deal, so what do I want to do? And I wanted to, kind of step out of whatever rules that I had put in place for myself in the past. So that's the thing is like, oh, do you do originals or do you do covers? You got to pick one and run with it. And I was like, well, no, I'm going to do original music and then I'm going to do covers. And if we want to do it straight, we'll do it straight. But actually, what we've been doing a lot of is kind of reinterpreting songs and doing some sort of funky / Motown versions of songs and mixing things up. So this band for me is kind of like a playground where I can do wherever I want because why not?
Now, who else is in $1 Million Question with you?
So starting at the back of the stage, we've got Josh English, who plays drums with Grosh, who's a phenomenal drummer. The bass player, his name is Mike Johnston. He used to play with me in a band called Kurt and the Loaders, where we did 90s covers for a long time.
I remember.
Oh yeah, we had a riot in that band.
You did. You did like
on guitar is.
You did like every genre, right? Didn't you do like industrial? Like you did like a whole industrial show or something?
We kind of did everything. It was real indulgent for us. So we did 2 Tool shows where we did, I got dressed up, right. I put a dress on and a wig, did full Tool. I mean, we did full shows dedicated to Foo Fighters, to Pearl Jam, to Weezer.
Love it.
We did everything, yeah. And then on guitar is Peter Hewer, who's a beast. He's the busiest musician in Buffalo right now. He's in every band. And then on keys is Jake Nicholson, who's also a monster and is a choir leader in his spare time, which is awesome.
Now, do you just start new bands as reasons to work with new people?
I mean, yeah. Why not? No. I tend, one of my problems is I'm very inconsistent with the style of what I like to do. So, if I play rock and roll for a few years, I'm like, I want to do something different. And so this was more of like, I mean, it's not like funk music, but it's my version of funk music. So it is. This was sort of I want to do a different kind of music. Let me put guys together that I think would fit that very well. Do
you have a favorite genre, or is it just whatever you're in the mood for at that particular moment?
Yeah, it's totally whatever I'm in the mood for. It's terrible because, you can't just play music. You have to be able to brand yourself and do all the other horse training and crap that you have to do. And I've always been not great at that because it's hard to have a consistent line of what you do and what you sound like, and to have people review your music and have it connect. My first solo EP is like, I took Shakespearean sonnets and stuff in the music. The second one's more like psychedelic pop. And then the EP I put out in 2023 is like very hard rock. And now I'm about to put out a funk record. So I'm a mess. It's a mess.
Nice. We're going to come back to Shakespeare in a minute. But before I do that, is there any genres you don't like? For example, I've never been able to get into country. I just can't do it. But like, give me opera or classical or jazz. Like, I'm in all those. Country for like, I have a mental block.
I mean, so when I was, I played music for a living for a bunch of years, and when it came to country music, I was like, I can do pretty much anything, but old country is kind of the only country that I know. There's a difference in performing music versus listening to it. As long as it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, I don't really care what the genre is. I mean, there's definitely things I gravitate towards. But no, I like the fact that I'm kind of open for anything, as long as it sounds unique and it sounds like the artist is doing what they want to be doing and not just they're just trying to make money and nothing else.
One of the great things about playing a little bit of everything is, Buffalo's got its bars, and each bar kind of has its niche, and you've played all of them, I think. Are there any bars you haven't played?
I mean, there's got to be some out there, but no, I mean, I was really lucky to be able to be, I was kind of a hired gun for a little while, so I got to play, I'd be on the folk sort of scene for a little bit, and then I never really did the country thing, but, you know, I've definitely gotten into Sportsman's a few times and went over and sat in with the Twang gang over there. I've done, you know, I haven't really done too much hip-hop, but here and there I've done a little bit. I've collaborated on a couple of records. So I definitely have gotten around. I try not to limit myself if I can, but it was kind of a interesting thing. You know, over the past 4 years, I've kind of had to do the opposite. You know, I spent so long saying yes to everything. That was how I was trained. That was how I was brought up. Like, you say yes to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you get into a lot of different situations that way, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I think Jim Carrey made a movie about that. It was pretty good. It was Zoe Deschanel.
Exactly. But lately I've been trying to be more focused now that I'm a dad, now that I have kids. After the pandemic, I had to switch and get I don't want to say a real job, but a different job where I work 9 to 5. So I've had to be way more focused and deliberate with what I'm doing and where I'm playing now.
What is your real job?
So I got it, you know, when you need a job in Western New York, there's a couple places you can look, and Geico is one of them, and Ingram Micro is the other place as far as I was concerned. So I applied and luckily had a nice little career at Ingram Micro. They're a tech distributor here in Buffalo, and
interesting. Good
actually
for you.
just left and went to work for a software company, and I just started this week.
Nice. So I try to do my due diligence when I, talk to people. I want to know a little bit of what I'm talking about before I go into it. So, like most professionals, I Googled Zach Ward, and I don't know if you know this, but there's a guy in Ohio by the name of Zach Ward who sells guitars.
Oh, yeah. I've met him. So
the other...
So you're familiar with the movie A Christmas Story?
So the other Zach Wards are Scott Farkas from A Christmas Story, and there's an Irish rugby
100%,
player.
Yep.
And there's an Irish rugby player named Zach Ward, which I didn't realize...
I'm learning new things. I didn't know about the rugby player. I know the guy out of Toledo because, he used to work for Reverend Guitars. Now he makes his own guitars. He's a super nice dude. But yeah, like, that was honestly a thing. Like, I got ZachWard.com. He would have like MySpace /Zach Ward. Like, we went back and forth trying to like sort out how we had our, even if you go on iTunes, sometimes they mix up whose song is who, and it's a bit of a bother.
Interesting. By the way, the Zach Ward rugby player is Z-A-C as opposed to Z-A-K.
Well, see, this is my main beef with my man Zach Ward out of Toledo. I love him. He's a good dude. But if you look on my birth certificate, my full name is Z-A-K-A-R-Y. That's how my mom did it.
Right.
The Zach Ward out of Ohio voluntarily took the C out of his name.
Ah, what a jerk.
So we got beef.
Yeah.
We got beef there, Zach.
So if you ever want to fight him, just throwing this out there. Well, we're talking about people with similar names. There are several other Scott Lefflers out there. One of which used to be, I'm sure he's retired by now, but one of which was an MMA fighter. And about 15 years ago, I got a contract from MMA to do a fight because they thought that they had sent it to this other guy. And it was like $50,000 or something like that. And I like seriously considered it. I'm like, you know what? I could get my brains beat in for $50,000. That would come in handy. I didn't go on to do it. But there's also a Scott Leffler who was a pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. And
all right, so you're in good company.
Yeah. Like but I will tell you this: I have got all of the Scott Leffler, the social medias, the web, like ScottLeffler.com is me. I was first to grab all the things, so they're just going to have to deal with it.
That's smart. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. All right, so Zach Ward, Canadian actor from A Christmas Story, Scott Farkas. You have acting not only in your blood, but you do a lot of theater stuff in addition to the music. And I feel like that's not weird, but atypical. I feel like people tend to do either the music or the theater, but you seem to go in both directions. How did that come about?
So, my parents lived in New York City, and my dad got a job teaching theater at Niagara University, which is why my family moved to the area. So I grew up doing theater. That was always like what I was doing as a kid, and in high school, that's what I went to college for. So I've just always done that. And then, I found my passion playing music, and I did that for a long time. You're right, though. It's very hard to do both, because doing theater is so time consuming.
Oh, sure.
So I absolutely love it. But I've had to be very strategic about that too. And it was manageable before I had kids. Now that I've got 2 daughters, and I really have to focus now just on playing music. But I've done a show. This year I'm not doing a show, but I've done one play or musical every year since 2015, I think, and
really?
A bunch before that. But ever since living back in Buffalo, I pretty much did theater every year, and I love it. It's where I'm very, very comfortable because it's so familiar. But I'm not going to do anything, coming up yet here. But it's an absolute riot. I love doing theater. But like I was saying before, I've had to sort of pare it down. I've got maybe 2 to 3 good hours a week that I can dedicate to being creative at this point. So I got to put it all into music.
Now, when you say do theater, is this just acting? Do you direct? Like, do you want to be a producer? Like, what? I feel like I'm kind of going off the rails here, but in all seriousness, is this because some of the things that I had read, it looked to me like you had a more in-depth role than simply as a part.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a couple of years ago, actually more like 6 years ago, I worked a lot with a company in Buffalo called Musical Fair. And they asked me to be the musical director and work on a show where a lovely man named Michael Walling, who's a director here in Buffalo, wrote a show that was all based on the musical Paul Simon. And that was a really special show. So I got to act in that, but I was also the music director in it and had a hand in sort of creating the show. And I loved it. I don't see how that's possible unless you can, submerge yourself in a project like that, 80 hours a week.
Right.
But anything I can, basically, I'll wrap my hands around it. If I can. Doing that Paul Simon show was a really, really special experience. To be able to create something new was amazing. But in general, I usually just act and either sing and dance in the shows.
Gotcha. Now, a few years ago, the Buffalo Bills reached out to you, and they're like, hey, we would like you to be the house band for the, like...
that's the other thing that's super effing cool.
Yeah, like, while I was doing my due diligence, I ran across a story from Katie Lynch at WIVB, and I'm like how? Like, that's not fair. Like, other people want luck too, Zach.
The official band of the Buffalo Bills. That was a great call. That was 2016. I got married. I bought a house. I had a baby. I didn't have the baby. My wife did. But and then somebody called a friend of mine and said, "Hey, do you want to manage? You want to have the official band of the Buffalo Bills? Do you know anybody?" And this is the benefit of just going out there and saying yes to everything for a bunch of years, because I refer to myself as sort of a regional D-list celebrity, so people know me, and somebody reached out and said, do you want to do this? And I was like, absolutely.
Mikey eats everything.
Absolutely. I was like, are you ready to do it? I was like, absolutely. So I called up Jeff Schaller, who's in the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame, who's a monster drummer, and Brad Robbins is our bass player, and we've played every home game since that 2016-2017 season, and it is an absolute riot.
Do you expect that to continue?
Yeah. So we kind of wait for the season to be announced and sort of reconfirm, but I have no reason to doubt that we'll be back again this year as the Believers, the official band of the Buffalo Bills. I'm really hoping they carved out a little corner for us in the new stadium, but we just kind of take it one season at a time.
Sure. Now, do you just play right there in the parking lot?
No, we're inside the stadium. We have a little stage, and it says the Believers on top, and we play inside the stadium pretty much right up until kickoff before the game.
Gotcha.
So we're in there playing Cheap Trick and Rolling Stones and the Doors and getting people rowdy and jumping up and down and singing along. And we end with the Killers. You got to.
Oh, of course, yeah. The Sabres started doing that, too, where they have a band. It's not the same band all the time, but they've got a band that comes and plays.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a lot of buddies that have done that. That seems like a super fun gig, too.
Yeah. Very, very, very cool. So, Zach, I don't know if you know this, but over the years, you have you and your bands have taken home several All Western New York awards. I was going through our website. Now, in 2015, you came in second place for EP of the Year. What was the EP that year, 10 years ago?
Oh, my gosh. 10 years ago, was that? I think that was That's What You Get.
All right. 10 EPs ago, right?
Well, again, so pre-pandemic might as well just be a cloud. I don't remember. Something happened. I have a very hard time remembering whether it was 3 years ago or 12 years ago.
Oh, dude, I feel you there.
Or maybe it was the Gallimaufry. I don't know. So I put out a couple of EPs, but the one was the Gallimaufry that was sort of the Shakespeare one, and then there was another one called That's What You Get. And if you're asking me to remember what happened 10 years ago, we're in trouble.
If I tell you something was last year, it was probably 2020.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so that was the EP of the Year, second place, 2015. The year before that, you got Best Cover Vocalist for Kurt and the Loaders. That was the All Western New York Radio pick for the year. 2018, you got Best Vocalist, an honorable mention. And then this year, the All Western New York Awards, just announced a little over a month ago, you and $1 Million Question came in third place for Best New Band. So you're just all over the place.
Oh, I knew we were nominated. I don't know if we got third place. I don't think I can swear, but that's awesome.
All right, you could swear, but you don't have to. It's okay. I'm a little disconcerted though that you didn't know. I feel like we might have put out a press release or something.
Well, I mean, maybe you tagged Zach Ward out of Ohio. I got to figure that out.
It is entirely fine.
I'll be pumping it out of the airwaves now.
He's probably got the certificate hanging up on his wall.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I mean, I just can't even tell you how excited about the new band. I'm trying to do fewer because I can only do fewer shows, but sort of more larger shows where we're thinking about the visuals and we're trying to make it more of an experience. So we're doing some cool stuff.
I feel like that's kind of been a thing for you the past few years. Is you're doing these the big series that everybody knows about, and I know this year one of the big ones that you're doing is Larkinville.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's sort of been what I've been trying to do, and I'm happy it's been somewhat successful. But yeah, if I can't play all the time, I want to play and make it more fun and make it more impactful. But yeah, we're going to be covering all of Radiohead's The Bends album at Larkinville, in addition to a set of our sort of take on originals and covers. That's on July 9th, which I'm very, very stoked about. That's going to be a ton of fun. I'm a huge Radiohead fan.
All right.
In case
now,
no one knew that.
Speaking of Larkinville, this is like, follow my convoluted train of thought here. I'm a huge Beatles fan, and the past couple of years I have missed out on Beatles on the rooftop at Larkinville because it sells out in like 4.5 seconds.
Yeah.
But you're friends with those guys, right? The Black Rock Beatles?
Oh yeah, that's Gino McManus and Kathy Garfani and Frank. Yep.
You ever fill in?
You want me to get you a pass?
No. But you ever fill in?
So I did a few David Bowie shows with Gino, which was really a ton of fun. But I made a promise to my wife that I would only do original stuff moving forward here. I've played with Gino over the years. I haven't filled in with the Black Rock Beatles. I've definitely played my share and many other people's share of Beatles songs.
I used to live for all intents and purposes.
With those guys.
I used to live for all intents and purposes next to Remington Tavern, and I would go there as many Mondays as humanly possible.
Yeah, so you've seen it. And I love Gino and I love Frank, but no, I haven't sat in with the Black Rock Beatles, but I've definitely played my share of Beatles tunes.
All right. I think I have asked you all the questions that I need answers to. If not, I'll send a guy over with a lead pipe and we'll get more information out of you as needed. But is there anything...
That's perfect. I'm from Niagara Falls, so that's our preferred method of communication.
Is there anything that you wanted to let folks know that I wasn't kind enough to ask you?
Just that the couple of shows coming up. June 20th, we're opening up for David Cloyd. He's a great local musician who is putting out a full-length album. That'll be at Duende. And then the Larkinville show on July 9th. Those are the big ones.
All right. And
awesome thing.
And you've got some new tunes you're going to be dropping here soon, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're working on a record. I was debating it, but I think I'm going to send you a sneak preview of our first song here. It is an instrumental, but it's a great tune. The record's not going to be coming out until later this year. We're going to be mixing it at GCR with Jay Zubricki, who's the best in town. And so I'll send you a little sneak preview of it so you can give the people a taste.
Sounds great. I appreciate it. Zach, thank you so much. And thanks for rolling with me on this. I know that we had some trouble getting this set up first on your end and then on my end and technical difficulties, and it's just 2025, man.
Hey, any way you make it work is the right way.
Exactly. All right, Zach, thank you so much. Have a great day, man.
Thank you.
As promised, to close out the show, a new unreleased track from Zach Ward and the $1 Million Question. This is an instrumental piece called Magical Berries. We'll be back next week with Brad Ryder as our guest, Drew McGrath again on sports, and BD2 to talk entertainment. You've been listening to Here's the Thing. I'm your host. My name's Scott Leffler, and we'll see you next week.